So I never used to understand why from year to year with my mom, we would actually make a bed of maize because we used to do a lot of maize. So we make a bed of maize this year on one end, and then there's a space in between, and then there's another bed. The civilization exists by geological consent, subject to change without any notice. Hello, Samson here. Welcome to this segment of book reviews. I was reading the Permaculture Market Gardener. This is by Loeks. So it is not a romantic kind of book which talks about back to the land and all that. However, it's a very practical guide, very rich in visuals actually when it comes to just showing where is supposed to be done, and just the explanations in the book are top notch. And in today's segment, I'm going to give you 6 lessons that I personally got from the book, which are stemming from purpose, from management, from investments, and from the general planning of your enterprise in order to be profitable. So diving right into it, the very first lesson that I got, and which he brings about, is the fact that you need to understand natural systems before you design anything. So his argument stems from the fact that you cannot just design a successful farm without having to understand the natural systems of how things work. So there is a quote that Will Durant actually puts up, which says that civilization exists by geological consent, subject to change without any notice. So in the actual sense, you have to have an understanding of the hydrological cycle of the place and the land that you're using. The pedosphere is need to study the atmosphere and all of these different spheres, including the biosphere, that you need to have an understanding of before you actually even put a design on anything. So you need to be able to become a very good observer when it comes to just having an understanding of what you need in order for you to design a profitable farming permaculture. The second lesson that he brings out is that you need to map your farm, and then you need to know your land and its layers. His, however, breaks down like 12 layers consecutively. So some of which are micro and macroclimate, micro and macrofauna, plants, fungi, geology, so amongst all of these other factors. So the major takeaway therefore is that there is this need of base mapping that you need to do on your farm. So you need to understand where you're going to put what is going to run from where. If it means having a reservoir of water from one point, the piping is going to run from point A to point B. So the organization of the land pattern itself actually gives you enough leverage to understand what is happening in what field. So just the basic layering of the land is going to give you good leverage in order to understand where what is and just to be profitable. So Bill Mollison actually says that you need to look closely at the site itself, thinking of everything as a potential resource. So whatever you have on your field could be a potential resource. Number 3 is the fact that you need to define your holistic goal, right? So you need to farm the farm before the farm farms you. A lot of smallholder farmers get to be farmed by the farm, not farming the farm. Anyway, but before you actually put in anything in the field, the whole concept of ikigai, understanding your why, and Simon Sinek is the one who actually advocates so much for start with why. If you need to get anything done and achieved, one of the first things is just having your holistic goals set right. So every decision that you make should actually be stemming from the holistic goal that you want to achieve from the enterprise that you have. And of course, you need to farm your farm and not let the farm farm you. The 4th lesson that I got, and which the book brings out, is that you need to have guild enterprise production. So guild enterprise production simply tells that there is supposed to be symbiosis on your land. Whatever you have is supposed to support the life of the other. So yeah, symbiosis is basically living together. It's not supposed to be parasitic, but symbiotic. For more insights on having a symbiotic kind of permaculture, you might just want to get in touch. But the lesson is simply your guild enterprise production should be symbiotic in nature. The 5th lesson that I got is the permabed system. this is organized by actually resilience. So I never used to understand why from year to year with my mom we would actually make a bed of maize, because we used to do a lot of maize. So we make a bed of maize this year on one end, and then there's a space in between, and then there's another bed. The following year, my mom would say, instead of utilizing these two beds, we are going to break them apart. So from this bed and this bed is going to be put together in order that we can farm on this other bed. But however, the perma bed system advocates for the framework that there is supposed to be permanent beds which you're going to use. And when you come to think of it, where you're using drip irrigation and whatnot, you cannot afford to consistently be changing the position of beddings. And this has a lot to do with no-tilling and all that. So when you understand that it is organized for resilience, then there is profitability that comes. So beds are made and they're formed, but they're never destroyed. And lastly, number 6, my favorite lesson of all is there is brown brain investment. So invest in the soil and the perennials actually. So Zach actually dive deep into like the brown brain investment, and consciously talks about an investment that you need to make. And some of his ratios that he breaks down, they're like the 3 major ones which are there. Those are like your perennial percentage, which is about 1 to 3% of your gross income that's supposed to go towards those. And yes, it could be like a futuristic investment for your farming for you. The second one is you need to invest for your future funds. So setting aside income for children's education, retirement for yourself, and things like those, where you're just having money come in on a constant basis for your future. And the last one is the wholesale. 30% of whatever you are doing and your wealth generation is supposed to be reinvested in the soil. And yes, this is where we get everything that we need as people who are into agriculture and permaculture. So this is basically the permaculture, the market garden. For more insights, you might want to read the book. Till we meet in the next segment, I am checking out.